Alrighty folks, it's been 5 months I think since my last Q&A video, and so given the time of year where we're all recovering and coming down from the high that was Christmas and the New Year, I thought it'd be fun to do another Q&A. And so once again, I reached out to you guys over on Twitter, Instagram, and here on YouTube to see what questions you had for me. I'm gonna keep my answers a little briefer than the previous offerings to try and fit as many questions into the video, but without further ado, let's get to the answers. All right, this first one is from JB over on Twitter, and he asks, what's your tips for small tech YouTubers just starting out? First and foremost, and you hear this one all the time, but that's because it's totally true, and that is to post regularly. When I started out, I just committed to making and posting one new video every single week, and I found that having that regularity in my schedule seemed to be really beneficial in regards to building an audience. And I also now think that it's actually super beneficial in regards to how YouTube places your videos into the algorithm, but that's a topic for another day. The second thing is to try and find a way to make your content unique and stand out, which I know is a really tall order given how many tech channels exist today, but even if it's just a very little component of your channel, try and find something that makes it unique. But then the final bit of advice is to make sure you really enjoy making the content that you're making and that you're not just making it to hopefully become a successful YouTuber one day. If your main motivation for making content is to become a successful YouTuber, then I can almost guarantee that you're gonna burn out fast and you'll probably never get there. But if you love making the content that you're making and you're striving to develop in your filmmaking skills or in the way that you make videos full stop, then after 6 months or a year or even a few years, wherever your channel is at, you'll at least be able to look back and be really proud of the content you've made and of your development in your own skills. Hopefully that helps. This next question is from Farzine, who asks, will you ever use a budget phone as a daily driver? And I'm not really too sure what you mean by budget, but in the past year or so, I've actually used and reviewed the Galaxy A52 5G, the OnePlus Nord 2, the ZTE Axon 30, and even the Pixel 4a back in 2020. And if you didn't know, whenever I review a phone, it becomes my main everyday phone for at least 2 to 3 weeks before I then make the review. So I personally think that the answer is yes, but given how fortunate I am to have access to a lot of high-end phones as well, I'll probably never end up using one of those budget phones long-term, like for several months. Does that make sense? This next question is from Lord Kevin 2010, who asks, do you plan on making more best apps not on the Playstore videos? And this is a super easy one. Absolutely. That series was one of the most successful series on the channel in 2021, so I'll absolutely be making at least a few more episodes in 2022 and beyond. This is a cool question sent in from Schlock Gandhi, who asks, during any app testing, what are some of the red flags for you? And what are the priority features / requirements for the app to be featured in your videos? Well, for one, the actual concept of the application has to be one I find somewhat interesting. Although sometimes I realize it's been a little while since I've featured a weather app, for example, so I'll actually go on the hunt for a new, slightly undiscovered one to showcase as well. But I actually build up a short list of about 20 to 30 apps per top apps video based purely on the description and screenshots of the app from the Google Play Store. And then I'll actually go ahead and install every single one to assess firstly its design, but then secondly, its functionality. And if both of those two features are solid and they appeal to me, then as long as it's not filled with a stack of ads, it'll most likely get a feature. All right, this next question comes from Instagram from LesWatt66, who asks, what phone is your daily driver and why? And the short answer for that is the regular Pixel 6, mainly because of the software, the performance, things like the haptics, but then I also much prefer its build over the more expensive 6 Pro. And that's pretty much down to the fact that it has matte rails and a flat display. I suggest watching my full in-depth review of this phone to see more about all of those reasons in a lot more detail. Ooh, this one is huge. Comes from Mr. P534, who asks, what is your favorite app of all time? And this is a very tough question to answer. I'm obviously gonna skip out on all those super mainstream apps like Twitter or Instagram. I'm also obviously not allowed to say my own app because that would be incredibly biased, but link below to a video where you can learn more about that. But I think if I had to say just one, it would be an application I absolutely rely on to keep all of my tasks and reminders in check, and that is Memorigi. I've mentioned this app many times on the channel, but aside from the functionality, it's the design and the animations, just the flow of the app. It's so damn impressive to me. I love it. This next one is from Prashanth, who asks, do you use dark or light mode? And this is an easy one. I have my system theme set to a schedule. So light mode kicks on at 6 AM and then it switches to dark mode automatically at 10 PM. All right, over to the YouTube questions now. And this next one comes from Who's JMC Games, who asks, what's your best technique to overcome procrastinating? I actually made a full video that covered a bunch of tips to improve productivity for filmmaking, which I'll link up in the cards if you're interested. But I reckon my top tip from that video that I think is still super invaluable is to create super itemized to-do list, like super itemized. So instead of having create X video on your to-do list for the week ahead, which is a massive, potentially overwhelming thing to complete, instead, you should break that up into every little component you can think of, like complete draft script, finalize script, film top down, film outdoor B-roll, film A-roll, edit A-roll, and so on and so forth. And then that way, you'll be checking things off your list left, right, and center, which feels amazing. And you'll also quickly learn how long each of those things takes to complete, which means if you're doing this regularly, you'll be able to really effectively plot out your schedule and maximize your time efficiency. This next one is a really great question. It comes from Tanuj, not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but they ask, why does every reviewer have light mode enabled when reviewing a phone? I'd never really noticed this before, but as soon as I saw the question, I knew the answer immediately, and I thought the answer might be interesting to you. Now, there are actually two parts to the answer. The first is reflections, the second part is screen flickering. So a phone's display is glass, right? And glass is inherently reflective, right? Now, when you put something bright behind that glass, like a white screen, then the reflection becomes pretty much invisible. Whereas when you put something black behind the glass, it becomes as reflective as a window, for example. And for tech reviewers, that is a nightmare. We're trying to avoid showing reflections on the phone's screens. And so we will do whatever it takes to eliminate that as best as possible. And one solution is to make sure, where possible, whatever is on the display is bright and not dark. So that's the main answer, but I also find that phone screens seem to flicker just a little bit on camera whenever something dark is on the screen. I'm not sure if that's the same experience for other phone reviewers out there, but I definitely don't see flickering as much when I've got something light on the screen. Hopefully that helps, but fantastic question. Right, last question for today comes from Blaine, who asks, is rooting worth it in 2022? I'm gonna try and keep this answer short, but if you checked out my recent how to use banking apps on rooted devices video, then you'll know that my Pixel 6 is in fact still rooted, and it's still my everyday device. So the definitive answer for me when using a Pixel phone is yes. I wouldn't find it as necessary to root other phones that let you customize the default home screen launcher more so than what the Pixel devices do, but as long as safety net is passing and I'm still able to use the apps I want to use without them breaking, then yes, rooting is definitely worth it here in 2022. But that's it. A huge thank you to everyone that sent in questions. Apologies if I didn't get to yours in this video, but that actually segues nicely into letting you know about my YouTube channel membership page, because one of the perks for all members is a monthly live stream where I'll essentially be answering any and every question submitted in as much detail as you like. There's also a stack of other perks as well, including monthly promo code giveaways and a members only Discord. Plus you'll get access to my entire filmmaking course for a staggering 90% off the original price, which means it'll only cost $5 instead of $50. So if you like the sound of that and you're keen to support the channel, then there's a link in the description to where you can check that out and get involved. Aside from that, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will catch you later.